Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Science Cafe KL December. So we're 2 minutes away from the official live stream, and I thought I wanted to take this opportunity to welcome everybody to participate in the poll, to let us know what do you think about today's topic, and also let us know who you are joining us here live today in Science Cafe KL. So for those of you who just engaged with us, it will be a great opportunity to find out what's your thought about AI. I'm very sure that a lot of you may have heard of robotics, you may have heard of artificial intelligence. So today we have not only one, but two speakers that will be telling us more about the applications of AI for healthcare as well. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are still new to Science Cafe, we are a monthly science talk which gathers a lot of the public audience to join us for a science discussion. And we cover a broad range of topics from medicine to engineering to sustainable technology. And today, just to close off for 2020, I think we've been in a year where technology has helped us a lot in working from home, getting connected while we are physically distancing ourselves. So how technology has now been so strongly integrated into part of our daily life. And right now we have AI being integrated into a crucial industry in our daily life, which is healthcare. So for today's topic, we're going to have two speakers that will be sharing more about how AI works and how it is such a huge impact to us in healthcare. So ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've just joined in, please welcome to Science Cafe KL, of course, and please log on to slido.com and do let us know who you are as the audience joining us today. Today's event code is AI Health. So when you go to open any web browser or any Chrome, just type in the URL sli.do or slido.com. And when you're prompted the event code, just key in the event code AI Health. So AI Health is today's event code for today. Ladies and gentlemen, while we are waiting for the polls to come in, let me just bring you through what is Science Cafe, who are organizers, and who are the speakers for tonight's Science Cafe. So Science Cafe is an initiative, a science communication initiative championed by the Scientist Network, Academy of Science Malaysia. And this is one of the ways that we position scientists into the public scene, where we want to hear actual science, real science from scientists themselves. And this is also one way that we could engage the public on science discussion. In a way, all this while we felt that Science Cafe has been a Hello. Yep. Thank you. There's a slight disconnect. So it has been a good opportunity for people to know about science and to learn something new about science every day. So with us today, we have two speakers, and I'm really proud to introduce our first speaker, which is Professor Patrice. So Professor Patrice has earned his bachelor's in science, master's in science, and PhD in computer science from the University of Pierre and Marie Curie, now part of the Sorbonne University, Paris, France, in 1981. He receives the national accreditation for full professorship from the French Ministry of Higher Education and the University of Paris South, now part of Paris Saclay University, France, in 1996. He has been appointed professor in computer science in International Medical University on 10th February 2020, in charge of developing new undergraduate and postgraduate programs related to digital health and health analytics. Prior to this, he had been a full professor and head of School of Computing at Taylor's University from 2018 to 2019, and a full professor and dean core STEM faculty at International University of Malaya, Wales from 2014 to 2017. He had previously been a full professor in computer science at the University of La Rochelle, France from 1997 to 2014, and an associate professor at the University of Paris-South, France from 1984 to 1997. So today I'm really glad we have Professor joining us. He has immense experience in computer science and he'll be a great person to talk about AI as well. To support tonight's show, we also have our second speaker, which is Dr. Yi Xiong, also from International Medical University. So Dr. Tan Yi Xiong receives her Bachelor's of Computer Science and Master's in IT minor thesis from Monash University, Australia and Malaysia in 2001 and 2005 respectively. And she receives a PhD from Monash University of Malaysia in 2016. She has been in academia for almost 15 years, and she is currently a senior lecturer with the School of Pharmacy, Life Science, Health Informatics and Analytics, International Medical University of Malaysia. So with that, let us welcome Dr. Yi Xiong and Professor Patrice. So, Dr. Yi Xiong, just say hi to the live audience.
Hi.
Unmute yourself. Okay, John, can you hear us?
Yeah, not very clear, but you are breaking up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, a bit of a disturbance, but I think it's all good. Professor, would you like to say hi to the audience?
Prof, you have to unmute first.
Oh, sorry. So, good evening, everyone. And I will let Isian talk first, and then I will talk to you about the future. She will explain to you what's happening now with artificial intelligence in healthcare, and later I will talk about the future. Thank you.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have two speakers, and to kickstart today's science debate, we have Alicia to share with us the current trends of AI in healthcare. So with that, I'll just
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the live show by the Science Cafe KL. We are actually in the year of 2020 and in the December session. So time flies, and I hope everyone had your dinner. So let's go into and dive into the topic of today. Today, I'm going to present the current AI in healthcare, and then later on, Prof. Patrice will be coming in to talk about the future AI in healthcare. So at the moment, both of us are actually engaged with International Medical University in Malaysia, and we actually working together to promote digital health and also informatics and healthcare analytics. So let's go into the detail of what basically AI play the role in healthcare. So what can machine learning actually do for the current healthcare industry? So first of all, everyone knows that AI is basically trying to discover new area using the technology. And what about in healthcare? So basically, when you using computer, you basically trying to make use of what they actually have. And what we actually have at the moment is actually one of the examples we can actually look into is discover new medical knowledge. And of course, this new knowledge will be guiding the clinicians, physicians, and also doctors out there to give a better guideline in the future of what they can actually use computers in. And of course, the best practice of it is how can it make things faster and provide clinical trial in the sense of getting a better result. So AI will basically help in the sense of this because AI is trying to enable computer to mimic what humans behave and how humans actually behave. So the ability to process this kind of information for future decisions is very important. And we all know that this year is not really a good year. Reason is because we are actually affected by COVID-19. So the infections and spread of COVID-19 is actually pretty much affecting everyone. And what basically AI play a role in this particular infections and spread of COVID-19 is basically AI play a very important role where data has been generated day by day, every day around the world. And then from there, it answers that all this data can actually help us to answer some critical questions. As you can know that in Malaysia, we are actually using all this tracking, My Sejahtera applications to do a contact tracing and tracking. So all this data is basically helpful in healthcare as well as to be able to track who is infected and who is potentially infected. And from there, the government will play another role to basically help us to see if we are asymptomatic or we are actually the super spreader. So from there, AI play another important role is basically how can all this data be used in training, okay? And then, of course, from there, there's a lot of, as you can see the graph here, every day the COVID cases has been increasing. Then what can we do as a scientist? Of course, all of us can come together and then work together to basically see what AI can play a role in. And what we actually, our scientists have come up is definitely there's a few things that we have to find out will be the help of thermographic solutions using AI. And from there, we actually can recognize the faces of who is basically potentially affected or infected with this COVID-19. And then from there, we can basically lighten the security guard contact with the person who potentially infected. And of course, AI play a role in the form of healthcare ecosystem. So, well, in healthcare, people are the most important things or human being that we actually need in healthcare. So in this case, that we can't leave people away. And then what we can actually use in use AI in is basically we can actually use AI in locating where we actually located, and then from there, like I said before, contact tracing in this scenario is affecting everyone. So people in contact with, we are able to find them easily and identify them and bring them to the hospital for the test. So AI also play a very important role in identifying patients, in subgrouping them for personalized and precision medicine. So all these actually very important, and when we bring all this together, and multidisciplinary scientists around the world will be working together to leverage this advanced technology. And of course, what we actually want to achieve is to develop therapeutic strategy against the virus. So the next thing, what AI will basically help us is to optimize the hospital processes, such as resource locations and the patient flow. I believe that you all have been into the hospital at least once when you are born, but at the moment, and you can see that healthcare has been improved, and many processes have been automated as well. And for example, the post-treatment that we also actually need to wait for example, insurance. And when you want to do a claim for insurance, it's basically very long time of waiting. But when AI actually comes into the picture at the moment, it actually reduces the speed of processing all these payments in a faster pace. Sometimes when the doctor say that you are discharged at 12 or before 12 p.m., but you are only able to get your discharge at 5 or 6 p.m. What is basically the reason? But if AI actually comes into the picture, and most of the country are actually making use of machine learning and stuff like that to basically help them to fasten the post-treatment in this case, you can see that the waiting time for insurance claim is much more faster. And the post-care as well. Reason is when we have all this computations power with us, we can actually fasten the post-care. And if you can see that at the moment, there's a lot of wearable products out there, such as like iWatch or Fitbit, and all these things are able to track and actually communicate with the clinicians or doctors that you can basically speak for virtual consultations. So all this actually come into the picture and ease both parties, the patient and also the doctor. So with this come together, you can see that all these are able to find a missing dot here and there to make things faster, especially for patients. At the moment, you can see that hospitals are flooded with COVID tests and so forth. But how about other patients, such as those with diabetes and those that actually need dialysis? They are actually unable to go into the clinic or even to the hospital initially. But when things come into the when AI actually come into the picture, where they say that there's actually enough hospital bed, and they actually isolate all these infectious disease into a specific hospital, and you will see that post-treatment for other patients are much more easy. So actually what at the back end, what the government actually is doing is basically they're trying to use all this computation power, such as machine learning in this case, that they bring this up together and enable us to still utilize the hospital and clinic for the post-care or post-treatment, or even if you are basically visiting the hospital. So AI also play a very important role on improved accuracy of diagnosis, prognosis, and also the risk prediction. So basically what the hospital and even the healthcare is actually doing is and together with the computer scientists, is that it is important to harness the power of the electronic health record. In short, we call it as EHR, by integrating the disparate data sources and discovering patient-specific patterns of disease progression. So AI is trying to basically, there are a few branches under AI. One of it is machine learning. So machine learning is trying to look into clustering and also predictions, and also learning from what the data actually has, for them to come up with certain important information for the clinicians and also for the researcher. So this kind of useful analytic tools, technology, and databases and such approaches are required for the clinical and also laboratory and public health systems to address social issues related to privacy and protections of healthcare data with effective balance. So when a machine starts to learn, it will basically reduce the workload for a lot of healthcare personnel out there, particularly doctors, which and also those specialists. You can see that if let's say they are able to harness all this technology, they are able to reduce the medication error and also the adverse drug event. And from the research, medical error is actually the third leading cause of death after the heart failure and cancer. Well, why are we saying that? Is because medicines are taken by the patient, okay? And even the doctors are actually prescribing the correct medicine, but we cannot rule out that the patient didn't really follow the dosage. And if let's say AI and at the moment AI is actually playing a very important role, and also all the mobile applications out there, they play an important role to actually let the patients to write down what they have been taken and have they are they actually taking the medicines correctly. So all these information will be given or pumped to the applications, and later the doctors or the clinics can actually evaluate. And they also can use reminder automatically to remind the patients to make take the medication. So since all this is very important, and most of the common like for example, the adverse drug event can basically reduce the error if let's say all these computerized actually put in place, and coupled with AI to monitor the dispensers and assist the pharmacy to oversee the medication will even reduce the medication's error. And of course, besides that, AI is basically trying to help what we humans can't do so much in, especially when we want to automate the detections of related findings and pathologies and radiologies, etc. Give you an example. For example, at the moment, COVID-19 has hit a lot of countries, and all the healthcare personnel are actually very exhausted in the hospital when treating the patients. And over the clock, they might need to actually read the x-rays and all these things together. When machine learning comes into the picture, it actually helps them to be more effective in reading all the x-rays and all these things. And I have read articles that says that at this time being, radiology has to take about 6 to 9 seconds to read one x-ray, and then they have to diagnose the patient with what they have read, and then later report to the doctor and the specialist. So that is too much for healthcare personnel. Imagine that that can be actually replaced with machine learning and AI, and actually help them to sort of pinpoint on the certain diseases in a faster pace and more effectively. That will basically help the healthcare industry in the future. And even now, a lot of universities have promote this machine learning to clinics and even hospitals, especially in the US. Okay, there's also news from Google AI. You can see on the screen that they actually stepping up and look into healthcare data. So what they actually have as a sample is they have captured 3 million medications ordered from over 100,000 hospitalizations, where it actually used all this information to do a prediction to see that whether the pharmacists and also the doctors are giving the correct medication for the patients. So the training is actually quite promising for the result. It's about 65% to 75% accuracy by using machine learning. So it's actually a step forward of what we need to actually incorporate this machine learning and AI in healthcare and moving this forward, and you can actually help a lot of patients. And in this case, that is the goal for AI in healthcare. What we, the computer scientists, want to come into the picture and work together with clinicians and also doctors out there is to improve the quality of the healthcare and also the population's health outcomes. And all of all, this is actually beneficial for the patients and as a human being at the time being we get sick. But a lot of people, when they get sick, they are not able to pay for all this medication or even admit themselves into the hospital. In Malaysia, we are quite considered quite lucky in the sense that we have public hospital that we only need to give a few dollar or few ringgit to actually get ourselves admitted into the hospital. But looking into the number of doctors actually in the public hospital is very limited. That's why you can see that there's a long queue or waiting list there for us to wait and wait for our turn. So in this case, a lot of us, which so-called that we are able to afford the cost of medication, usually we opt for the public as well as the private hospital. So we have the options, but not everyone has it. But if this artificial intelligence can actually help us to reduce the healthcare cost, why not putting it in there? And it will basically make a lot of difference and reduce the workload for a lot of healthcare personnel out there, which have to stay in the hospital for 24 hours or more than that to actually attend to the patients who are in need for them. And of course, looking into the current situation, patients might actually restrain ourselves to go to the hospital for seek for medications or consultations. But with healthcare, we are able to look into having it, in this case, teleconsultations. And if let's say we are able to consult AI, in this case, the auto chatbot in there that pre-diagnose us or sort of categorize us whether we are in a high risk or low risk. In this case, then things can be prioritized and we are able to seek for proper medication. And of course, for a lot of us who are not or unable to purchase insurance, then we can actually be able to seek proper healthcare in a public hospital, in the case that looking into how we can actually arrange proper diagnosis before we actually consult the doctor. So all this AI actually play a very important role in the current situation. And if you can see that at the moment we have COVID-19 with us, And yeah, we actually using all this data that we actually have historically or the real life or real data in this time being to basically see what we can actually work around to help everyone in need. And not only that, we can see that the vaccines is coming and the time frame to produce the vaccine is also reduced. So what actually helped them in this case to reduce the time for getting all this approval is of course the production of the clinical trial. So that stage has been reduced, and then we are or they actually in the third phase of trying out the vaccine. If that is possible, why we can actually apply this into other uh, vaccines as well to reduce the time to get ourselves vaccinated, and all these medications can basically help a lot of people. So that ends my part of the current AI in healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yi Xiong, for that great insight on what's happening now for AI healthcare. And we already have some questions coming in at the live comment box. And for those of you who would like to ask questions to Dr. Yi Xiong or Professor Patrice later on, please leave your questions on the chat below the live stream. So we will receive your questions when you comment below the live stream. Or if you feel like you want to give some feedback through our survey, do share your comments through Slido. So let me just show what it is. So for Slido, please leave a comment first. Go to the browser SLEO or slido.com, and the event code is AI Health. So it'll be great to find out what's your understanding about AI in healthcare before today's session. And at the end of today's session, we will also do a similar poll and similar survey to find out how you have benefited from today's topic. But I believe that today's topic, you learn most when you had the opportunity to ask the speaker directly. So if you have any questions regarding AI in healthcare, do leave your question as a comment on the chat box below the live stream so that we could answer them at the end of today's session. So we have here so much about the current applications of health AI in healthcare from Dr. Yi Xiong, and I would like to hand the session over to Professor Patrice, to share more
Yeah.
about the future that lies ahead. So, Professor, the session is now yours.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe
So I
you would
will
like
share
to
my.
share, yeah, you would like to share your screen first.
Yes. Okay. Can you see my slides?
No, maybe you would like to share again. I didn't receive the signal.
Can you see my slides now?
Not yet. Maybe Dr. Yi Xiong, you could unshare your slide. Just bear with us while we wait for Prof to load. Okay, Prof, you should be able to share your screen.
Just one moment. What's happening? Can you see the slides?
It's still loading.
Loading.
All right, great.
You okay now?
Can see it clearly.
Is it okay? Can I start?
Yeah, it's all yours, Professor.
Okay. Thank you. So I will talk to you about the future of AI, because AI, artificial intelligence, started in the 1950s, and it was quite popular at the beginning in the 70s, then 80s and 90s not so much. It came back at the end of the 1990s and 2000 because of neural networks, and then machine learning became popular. So we will consider that there are three categories of applications of artificial intelligence in healthcare. First, those that are oriented towards the patient, those who are oriented towards the clinician, doctors, medical doctors, pharmacists, dentists, and all this. And finally, those for administrative and operational oriented people. So those who are managing the hospital, managing the files and all these things. And AI can be used at these different levels. So the technologies to follow for the future of this, first you have medical imaging combined with deep learning. So now, today, there are still some people who are doing it, but for limited experiments, because of the size of the data that we need, because of the power processing. So big research centers, they do it, but many people are not able to do it at the moment. Then we have machine learning combined with sensors and data analysis automation. This is the same. People are using it. It's usually easier because you can work on small problems, and the data sets that you need are not that huge. When the data sets become too big, then we have issues. The third technology that we have to follow is the one related to IoT, Internet of Things, wearables. So you probably know about Fitbit, Apple Watch, and all these. So you can use these at the moment, but they will evolve a lot. And in the future, you will see that these wearables will be much more powerful, and they will help you to follow your health much better than what we can do now. Then robotics. Robotics are already used in surgery, but same, it's experimental. In the future, it will become more generalized, and you will see that robotics will be used in many areas. Augmented reality, virtual reality is the same. It's a technology that is growing. For the moment, it's too expensive, not enough detailed, but in the future, it's something that will probably revolutionize healthcare in many ways. And finally, but not the least, we have something that is very important to consider, is interoperability and data integration of all the electronic health records, electronic health or medical records. Because if we want to be able, for example, to track people and try to understand why some people are affected by the COVID, for example, and why some others are not, we need to be able to check the data and to collect data from many places. So it must be interoperable, and we have to integrate all these data sets, which is something that is very difficult. And at the moment, it's rarely done, except in some countries like Singapore, for example. They are quite good at this, but Singapore is a small country, and it's easier to do it in a small country. In the US, it's very difficult. In Europe, it's very difficult. But it's probably something for the future also, most probably. Then the areas that will benefit from these technologies, first, precision diagnosis. It is something that we already do partially, and this is something that will become much more used and frequent everywhere in a few years' time. The early detection of serious illnesses like cancer is also something that we experiment at the moment, but it will become used everywhere in probably in 5 to 10 years. We still need to have progress, especially in not in the algorithm, but mostly in the data that we need and the processing power. So then medical images are used for oncology, cardiology, radiology, and combined with deep learning, this is something that is also advancing quite fast. But once again, for this, we need a huge data set. This is one of the aspects of deep learning. You need huge data sets and its and processing power that go together with it. Surgery, together with robotics. Surgery, there are some experiments you can see sometimes on TV shows, and you hear about in the news of robotic surgery. But it's also something that will become more used in the future. Drug discovery. Apparently, the COVID-19 has been something that has changed a lot of things in the drug discovery, and AI has been used to help reduce the time spent to find the new drugs, to prepare them. But in the future, we will probably need much more for this new drugs, because this pandemic is most probably not the last one. There will be many others coming in the next few years, and we have to be able to be very fast in discovering new drugs. And many companies are investing a lot of money in this. Not only pharmaceutical companies, but many companies. Finally, healthcare administration, as I said before, administration of the hospital, administration of the files, of the electronic medical records. All this is something that will benefit from the progress that are being made in the technologies that I mentioned just before. So what we are going to see is a switch from hospital-based to home-based care, because we are trying to reduce the time that people spend at the hospital, trying to let them take their health in charge by themselves, using wearables, using a lot of new technologies, and call the doctor online, and only come to the hospital when really it's necessary. So we use remote monitoring, wearables, IoT, all these technologies. AI-powered alerting systems also that can be used in the future, and virtual assistants like I don't know if you have it, but Alexa, the devices from Amazon, Microsoft, and others, Apple, they will be used to help you do your, not auto medication, but be involved in your medication and help the doctor to find what you have, so that you don't go to visit the doctor, you don't go to the hospital all the time. So you take ownership of your healthcare, and this is something that will most probably be everywhere in maybe not 5 years, but in 10 years most probably. Next, so the benefits for patients on one side and hospitals on the other side. As you can see, for the patient, you will have more choice and convenience for choosing your doctor, or for going to the hospital later. Faster and easier appointment scheduling, because it will be better managed. Convenient bill paying. Less time spent filling out or updating forms, because in the future you will also be able to use natural language. You can speak to the computer, and it works in some cases at the moment, but in the future it will also become generalized, and you will be able to talk, and the computer will understand, and then it will go directly to the forms. For hospitals, one of the main objectives to reduce the costs, reduce wait times for people who come to the hospital, fewer errors. As Isian mentioned before, there are errors. It's a cause of death. It's something that is important. So it should be reduced, and it will be reduced in the future. Easier payment options. This is something that will be probably, it's already also tested at the moment. And increased patient satisfaction, which is what most hospitals, especially private ones, want. So in the future, this is something, the patient journey will look like this. You will use, maybe we can, I don't know if you can see my pointer here. We can use wearables. The wearables will track your heart rate, glucose level, and other health indicators. At the moment, if you have Fitbit or Apple Watch, you can check your pulse, you can check some small things. In the future, you will be able to do a lot more because all these companies are investing a lot of money in this. Then your data coming from your wearables, they will be sent to some computers, central monitoring system, and they will be integrated with your data, and doctors will check what happens to you. It can be done continuously, or it can be done when something happens special. Later, you can check biometric kiosk at the provider's office. It can be the doctor, it can be the hospital. You can check your situation. The provider, that is the doctor, medical doctor, will examine you and dictate a visit note. As I told you, he will talk and it will be recorded automatically and translated into a report, written report. And later, these report can be translated and codified information into electronic medical records. So in fact, your electronic medical records or electronic health records will be updated, and all the data that you bring through the wearables and you give to the medical doctor, they will come to your electronic medical records. And it goes back to the same way. So what is important in this is that it will be easier to track your health all the time, in fact, continuously. If something happens, your doctor will probably receive an alert, or the hospital will receive an alert. It's already possible with the Apple Watch, for example. If you fall, the Apple Watch now can detect that you are falling, and it can send an alert to the 911 in the US, or in Malaysia, I'm not sure, maybe 999. And doctors can come and take you. Or you can also send a message to someone that you know who will take care of you. So this will be generalized, and then it will be much easier, and you will be safer, in fact. So the next one. So it looks like a promising future, but there are problems, and there will be issues. There are issues now, there will be issues later. So for example, AI-based automation, maybe new job creation, yes, and that's why we are creating a we are proposing new programs at the International Medical University. In February, we will open a Master of Health Informatics and Analytics, and in September, we will open the Bachelor of Digital Health, because there are a lot of new opportunities coming. At the moment, IMU will be the first university to propose these programs. In the UK, in US, in Europe, in many countries, Australia as well, it already exists. And there are many digital health and health informatics programs, because it's the future. This is what will happen. Doctors need to be able to use the technology, but people who are, for example, computer scientists, or people who have a background in IT, they need to know a little more about health so that they can help people and in hospitals and elsewhere. Then the emergence of general AI to create synthetic systems. Yeah, this is something that will be discussed later about general. In fact, I will not talk about it now, but it's something that is a hot topic about general AI. So the system will become more and more sophisticated, but it's something that is, in my opinion, quite far away. We are not there yet. It will take many years. Then we will need to have a regulatory framework for the use of AI. And this is something that people are working on at the moment, but it still needs a lot of work. So now about the barriers. I mentioned it earlier, but it's something that is very important, the absence of interoperability. We need to be able to collect data from various sites, various providers, and to integrate them. Your data are a little bit everywhere, but we need to be able to collect the data for everyone. And you will see later that it's also a concern. It's also a concern about privacy. So we have regulatory implications. People are working on it, lawyers and medical doctors and others. There are moral and ethical implications on what we can do with all this technology and what we should be aware of and avoid, because AI is something that is very powerful and you can use for the best. You can use it for the best, but it can also be used for the worst. So we were talking about interoperability, and we are also concerned about data privacy. We need to integrate data sets, but at the same time, we have to be sure that your data will not go anywhere. It's already a big concern. You know that your data are collected by Google, Facebook, and all the big companies who are collecting your data. You don't know where your data are going. And finally, shortage of relevant and sufficient talent. As I told you earlier, we need more people who are knowledgeable in both in computer science, IT, artificial intelligence, and know about health. Personally, I've been involved in the development of software for a clinic in France, in Paris, some years ago. And I spent a lot of time talking to medical doctors and checking with them what they needed and showing them what I had developed. This is something that needs both competencies and both domains. Now, limitations and issues. Once again, privacy and security is one of the most important aspects, and this is something that will probably make it not so fast to develop. The use of AI in healthcare, we have to be very careful about how it's done. Now we are currently using data sets for machine learning, for deep learning. We need huge data sets. We need to collect as many data as we can about people, what they live every day, and how we can improve their conditions based on this, and to detect if something can happen, like a heart attack. It can be done. There are signs, and if you have a wearable, or the computer can detect something that can happen to you. Then we interpret machine learning results, but there is something that is very important, and people forget about it very often. It's the lack of explanation of deep learning and the risk of bias. Is when you use deep learning, it's inspired from neural networks, but there are many layers of neural networks, and you don't know exactly what's happening and why the system at the end gives you a result. At the moment, we are not completely sure. And when we talk about healthcare, it's not acceptable. You must be sure that the result that you get is safe, and that you can give a medication to someone, or that the answer from the system saying this patient is not sick is it's real. So we need to do a lot of progress in this, and many researchers and big companies like Google are working on this, trying to improve the way we use these machine learning and deep learning algorithms. And finally, data integration is a limitation, big limitation that I mentioned earlier. So, I found this online, and I think it's something that is very interesting. Comments from a scientist who has worked with data scientists. I found this on Reddit, and he said that a problem with data scientists, or so-called data scientists, most of the time is that they believe, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are young computer scientists or young data scientists, and they believe that they know everything and they don't need help. And so he said, you have to assume that they are assuming that any trend is a fact. For example, they are not asking for external input of their analysis, and they are not questioning the data. And this is something that is not acceptable. And so if you recruit someday people who says he's the data scientist and he knows about it, all those things, you have to ask him a few questions to see if he really understands what he's going to do. These people must work closely with subject matter experts. It's true for computer science in general, but it's even more true when you are working with artificial intelligence. You must work with the people who know the area of expertise. You have to work with them closely all the time. And then you don't assume that all missing data are bad because you don't know. You don't assume that all collected data are good because you don't know. And you must keep asking questions about your data. And you must keep asking questions to the subject matter experts about this. So this is something that is very important. The people who will be trained, we will train people starting next year at International Medical University. These people must know that they are not the best in their field, and they don't know everything. They must work closely with the subject matter expert. This is something that is very important. And then, this is the result of a survey that has been done by Philips Future Health. And as you can see, the trust in AI and all this technology is, it depends. You see, for example, for actioning treatment plans, only 45% of healthcare professionals are comfortable with using AI for this. Diagnosis, 47%. Recommending treatment plans, 47%. It's not big. It's only less than 1 or 2. Flagging anomalies is better, 59%. Patient monitoring, 63%. And staffing and patient scheduling, 64%, because it's easier. But you see that in case you use machine learning algorithms or deep learning to detect anomalies, to decide which treatment to give to a patient, healthcare professionals are not very confident at the moment. And this is something that will probably and hopefully change in the future, but we have to solve all the problems that I mentioned earlier for this. Now, the big tech giants are not staying in their corner. They are acting. They are spending a lot of money. You know about some of them. Google, they have something called Google Health. And it's supposed to, they are supposed to develop an advanced diagnosis tool. So this is something that is still in research. It's not commercialized yet, but Google is doing a lot of work on this. They are investing a lot of money on medical research, and they are working with research institutes, hospitals, and they are very active. And recently they have bought Fitbit. So obviously it's interesting because it's a wearable technology, but it's also very interesting for Google because they get all the data that come with the wearables. Same as Apple, they collect all the data that come on your Apple Watch. So Google is doing the same with Fitbit now. So then Amazon. Amazon is also very much involved in a medical information system because of its cloud storage, Amazon Web Services, because they are the leader at the moment, together with Google. But I think Amazon is still the most advanced at the moment. They have Alexa, and Alexa is not yet a medical device, but in the future it might become a medical device. You could talk to your Alexa and explain how you feel and etc. And Alexa could send the data to your hospital, to your doctor, or some center. Then Amazon has bought a company called PillPack, and they are working on online prescription delivery service, so replacing pharmacists in a way. They are also investing in something called Heaven, a joint venture with JP Morgan Chase and Berkshire Hathaway, and we are not sure yet what they want to do with it. Becoming medical provider, insurer, employer-based medical service, we don't know, but they are investing a lot of money in this as well. And finally, Amazon is also involved in a drug development platform using AWS, and they collaborate on this with Accenture and Merck. So Amazon is also very active, same as Google. And finally, Apple. I will not talk about the others because they are not so much advanced, but they are still doing. But Apple, of course, they have the Apple Watch with health-related sensors that detect falls. Now they are introduced ECG, and they are experimenting a few other technologies. If you check online of what Apple is doing with the Apple Watch, they are preparing new sensors with the Apple Watch. And they are working on something that is called Apple Health also, which the objective of which is to store the electronic health records on your iPhone. So in fact, your data will be on your iPhone. The data collected by your watch, but everything that you want to put on your electronic health record, it will be on your iPhone. And you can send this data to your doctor anytime you want. And they have developed an API, application programming interface, that is an intermediate to let medical institutions access your medical data. It means that, in fact, you can connect your iPhone to a medical service and you send your data. So this is what Apple is doing. So Facebook, Microsoft, and others are also working in this area, but they are not as advanced as these three at the moment. So one aspect of the future is maybe we can talk about augmented doctors, because the doctor they will not disappear. They are still the one who will make the decision, but they will use a lot of new technologies using robotics, natural language processing, image processing, artificial intelligence to make decisions better and faster. So this is the future. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And now we are ready for comments and questions.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for that wonderful sharing. I'll bring in Dr. Yixiong for a Q&A session. So we have a lot of questions revolving about human touch. And I think it's fair because there's a general fear, and I think you showed in your previous slide of this, that there's a less than 50% acceptance level by people wanting to trust AI or computer to make certain health decisions. And the first question comes from Chu Ting. And I direct this question to Dr. Yixiong. What is the acceptance level of medical doctors on the decision given by AI? And which medical domains can accept AI better? I know Prof you mentioned a bit, but maybe Dr. Yixiong would have your take on these questions.
Hi. I will answer the first question first. So what is the acceptance medical doctor on the decision given by AI? Well, like Prof. has mentioned, the AI is not actually replacing medical doctor. So what we actually want to look into the acceptance level is basically on the vital signs. If you have your wearable with you, you can basically use all this information like your heart rate and your exercise history, and also the sleeping patterns. All this can be the input for the prognosis for the doctor to basically see what are the likely medical conditions that you actually have. And I will say that for the a lot of researchers is also working together with medical doctor to look into X-ray, and of course all this come with the radiology. So all these are actually quite accepted. The acceptance level from the healthcare is actually quite high, and also the pathology wise, we have seen there's a lot of genomic research going on as well as to look into the precision medicine. So looking into um, working in the lab for the trial and error, they can basically extract a lot of proteins from the cell uh, to basically run a lot of tests and experiments in the computer. So one of the tests they actually use is basically using machine learning. So from that, we can say that when we present all this information or results to the medical doctor, then they can actually that input as well to see how accurate is what the machine can actually predict using the modeling that they have at the moment. And in what sense that medical domains can actually accept AI, they are quite similar, like I mentioned, the pathology, the radiology. They are quite keen to work with computer scientists and also the digital health experts to work in this field. And not to forget the electronic medical record, healthcare record, because all these records need to be in digital format so that later on, when we actually need our own personal health record, we can basically retrieve it easily. At the moment, if let's say we in Malaysia, if we visit one hospital and then later on we visit another, we are not able to bring our medical report that actually recorded in the hospital A to B. So we actually have to retrieve it personally going to hospital A. But even we try to retrieve, we are not able to retrieve a lot of other things like our vital signs. If let's say you got admitted into what we call it, into emergency like ICU, stuff like that. So we are not able to see those kind of record yet. But yet, if let's say these are digitalized and centralized, like what we see in other countries such as in Australia, they are moving towards on the electronic healthcare record, and yeah, they are able to see even for their own as well as from if let's say they get a consent from the parents, they can actually see their parents' health record in the sense that following like bringing one record to another state. If let's say you are moving from the Victoria state to what we call it, to the other state like Tasmania. So it can be transferred and similarly in the UK. Yeah, so Malaysia is looking for to have such, and I think with that, then it will actually uh, what we call it, enhance our medical field in Malaysia. Instead of moving backward, we should move forward. And I hope I answer your question, Mr. Kim. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Dr. Xiong. That was quite an in-depth explanation. There was a request to show the slide that the statistics done by Philip Xiong. Not quite sure whether um, as you answer the Q&A, we can have a look at that slide again. How many people accept the survey questions from the floor? And I think, Prof, if I may direct the next question from Dahlia Umar. Um,
I cannot hear you very well. I'm not sure. Is it about the job in healthcare?
Yeah, I think he's mentioning that.
Hello? Hi, so sorry, my internet connection is a bit unstable tonight.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. In fact, the problem of job loss and job creation is a general problem. It's not only in healthcare. Many people say, "Oh, the computers and robots, they will take jobs," and others say, "Yeah, but there will be new jobs created." So it's true in both ways. Huh? Jobs will be lost because there will be automation coming. It's not new. In fact, it has created many years ago. Uh, but there will be new jobs, and that's why we are creating. Sorry. Next year, we are opening these two programs in International Medical University. One bachelor in digital health, and the other is a master of health informatics and analytics. And these two programs are open to people who have not necessarily a background in science, because you need to learn a little bit about IT, and you need to learn a little bit about health and science in order to be able to work in these areas. So there will be jobs. And you can see from other countries in the US, in Europe, in Australia, it's already happening. And there are many jobs for people who are familiar with that what we call data science or artificial intelligence, and who are able to familiarize themselves with a specific area like healthcare in our case. Because if you have people who know computer science but they don't understand what people need, it's useless. So there are jobs, there will be jobs, and there are jobs everywhere in the world now. There will be jobs in Malaysia for those people who know a bit about computer science, IT, artificial intelligence, but also healthcare. And we are working on this. Is it okay?
Yeah, I would like to
I think
add.
Sean has got some issues with his connection. Yeah, so
Yeah,
maybe
having connection problem.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we will also propose probably next year. We will propose very soon some micro credentials, that is short courses on specific topics. Because in the bachelor program is a 3 to 4 year program, so it's quite long. Our master program is a 1 year program, and there are a few modules that you need to take. But some of these modules you could take as micro credentials, the same way people are taking online courses now with MOOCs like Coursera, edX, and others. You can take one micro credit at a time, and then you take another one. So this is something that we will also probably implement in early 2021. Sean?
Yeah.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. So I have answered. Did my reply go on, or is there a problem?
Yeah, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's Sean who has a problem with the connection.
Yep, I think my connection did. Also, sorry about it. It's very unpredictable nowadays, internet connections.
Yeah,
So
I
we
saw.
had,
Yeah. Okay.
I think we covered the questions that came from the floor again. We're going to give opportunity for the audience to pose some more questions. I'm not quite sure whether Prof, maybe you could share your experience. I think because you had international exposure to AI in healthcare, is there any comparison you see Malaysia compared to overseas?
I think in Asia, of course, Singapore has the same technology and the same programs now. They are very advanced, so they are the same as in Europe, US, Australia. Other countries in Asia, Southeast Asia especially, are not so much advanced. It's starting. Like in Malaysia, you have, in fact, in many universities, people are doing research on artificial intelligence and especially applied to healthcare. Even in IMU, we have colleagues who are doing research like Prof. Leon. They are using artificial intelligence for drug discovery or using machine learning for detecting some cancer cells or this kind of thing. But it's mostly research. You don't have any program today in digital health or healthcare analytics. And that's why we are opening these programs next year. Other universities at the moment, they don't have. They are doing research. People are doing research in AI applied to healthcare, but they don't have any program at the moment.
All right, and I think we're almost reaching to the end of today's session. So everybody, for those of you who are watching, do remember to leave your comments, feedback to us at Slido. So I'm just gonna share the screen.
We cannot hear. Sorry, Sean, we didn't hear what you were saying now.
There's another question. Maybe I can take over.
Yeah.
Uma actually has asked, I am doing my PhD on AI application and its implications on humans. I would say I have many questions to ask. So do you mind if I contact both of you for future clarification? Thank you in advance. Really impactful one.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry,
Actually
I have no idea why my internet connection is so bad. It never happens. Okay. Again, if you have any feedback for today's Science Cafe session, go to slido.com. The event is AI Health, and leave your comment. What do you feel about today's session? is it 3 points or 5 points, or you learn so much more from today's session from Prof and Dr. Yi Xiong. Again, I think just to sum it all up, a lot of promises that AI offers, and I think we can continue to discuss this as a heavy debate. But for tonight, I think we learned a little bit more, a tip of the iceberg about what AI offers and the challenges of AI in the future. I think Prof and Dr. Yishiong, I mean, if there's anyone that would like to reach out to you or have any questions, maybe they can post more questions and we can direct the questions to you on another time? Or is there any other way that the audience can find out more about AI in healthcare? Maybe, Prof, you want to go first if you like to have the audience to learn more about AI?
Yeah, people can send us email. You can give them our email at IMU, and they can contact us on our email at IMU.
Yeah, you can find us in IMU website as well. Just search our name. We will be happy to help out if you have further questions. Yeah. I would say that this is actually an opportunity for us to actually combine or work together in a way of multidisciplinary. And of course, AI is always
You for
improving,
that Science
and
Cafe.
there's no stop for improving the technology, and technology is always change. And that's why the field of IT is very interesting if you are the person that really strive for or hungry for technology. So this is something we should actually work towards it and start learning from each other and work together to enhance what we can in the future.
Okay.
Today's sound is actually breaking out a lot. So thanks a lot, Uma and Mr. Singh and the rest who are actually online. Our curator is not really responding well in terms of the internet connection. So I think we should end the session.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. And you can contact us. You can check IMU website and look for us. You will find our name somewhere, and you can send us email and ask us questions. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. Do remember also to like and support Science Cafe KL on Facebook for more updates. So with that, thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much, Dr. Ishiong.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.